tired, Lord, you know I'm weary. She said, give me your horse, she's talking to me. One of your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. And I never have lost sight of what this journey has been for. See how she lifts her lamp beside the golden door. I am you then, when the world war put us to the test, away into the west like wild birds flying. We put our backs to the wind, with hearts that always yearn for home. We made this place our own and about died trying. And she said, give me your tired, don't you know you're weary? She said, give me your horse, she's talking to you and me. We are your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. And I never have lost sight of what this journey has been for. See how we lift her lamp beside the golden door.
On September 1st, nearly 2 million German troops crossed the border into Poland. The Polish army was apparently unprepared and is reportedly overwhelmed and retreating. The governments of Great Britain and France have expressed their outrage, and declarations of war on Germany are expected. Reaction around the world is one of shock, even in Germany.
This is William L. Shirer reporting from Berlin. It has been a lovely September day, the sun shining, the air balmy, the sort of day the Berliner loves to spend in the woods or on the lakes nearby. I walk the streets. On the faces of the people, astonishment, depression, stunned.
Even outside of Europe, there is fear and deep concern. American poet Winston Hugh Lawton is in New York.
I sit in one of the dives on 52nd Street, uncertain and afraid, as the clever hopes expire of a low, dishonest decade. Waves of anger and fear circulate over the bright and darkened lands of the earth, obsessing our private lives. The unmentionable odor of death offends the September night.
Well, it's war, for certain.
You said it was coming.
How will we ever get our parents out of there now?
My father's not far from the Polish border. I hope he's safe.
I wonder if anyone is safe.
You certainly don't seem surprised that the worst has happened.
I'm not sure this is the worst.
What? What can be worse than war?
Oh, sitting back, allowing Hitler to gobble up all of Europe bit by bit without a word of protest. The Neville Chamberlain strategy. Ignore him until it's too late.
Do you really think it's too late?
If Germany is at war, the chances of our parents being allowed to leave...
Don't say it. Let me hope.
My father always said, hope makes a poor raincoat.
If Britain and France do declare war, can we at least hope it may end quickly?
No, if it ends quickly, it will not be the outcome we hope for.
How can you say that?
Because Britain and France are not prepared for war, and Germany is. A quick outcome will not be to our liking.
Our one consolation, we are here in the Pacific Ocean. In English, Pacific means peaceful. It's aptly named. With the war in Europe and the Japanese fighting the Chinese on the Asian continent, we are in the one place where no one is shooting at one another. It's the one piece of good news we can tell our American cousins.
I know it's hard, but when you write them, try not to be too pessimistic.
I will try, but trying, Liebchen, is one thing. Succeeding is another. Reality keeps interfering between me and my typewriter.
He says that Manila is beautiful, modern, and interesting, but that maybe they would find it easier to make a living outside the capital. He says that out of about 450 immigrants from Germany in Manila, only 150 have found jobs. They're staying in a primitive boarding house to save money, and their furniture and household goods are on a ship that's stuck in Japan.
That war is a very tragic chapter. We have no longer any connection with our parents in Germany. We don't know if they're in good health, and we are very anxious about their situation. You will perfectly understand our feelings, and that our real happiness that we could find this peaceful place of refuge, owing to your kindness, is shadowed by that uncertainty. We hope the war will be finished as soon as possible. The end of the ruling German system will surely be the best for all of us.
My dear cousins, we take it from your letter that you do not find Manila too unpleasantly strange as a place to be, and we're glad to know that. It'll probably take a little while for you to find yourselves economically, but that's to be expected. Perhaps by now you will even be settled or have prospects. In any case, I have today directed my bank to cable you $300, which will by now have reached you. We've had some news from your friends and family. From Marga's mother and father, we heard directly, twice, although the letters had been censored. Once immediately after you left, and again a few days ago with New Year's greetings. They were sad, of course, to see you go, but seem, except for this, not to be in low spirits, and their health is good. I am writing them news of you today, since the mails are so much faster from here to Europe than from Manila. We are all aghast at what is going on in Europe, and ourselves have only two fixed beliefs. One, that Europe should be allowed to ruin herself without help from us, which would ruin us too. And two, that no possible good can come of this war, no matter how it turns out. One can only say, enjoy life.
We acknowledge with many thanks the receipt of the money you kindly cabled, and we can tell you it arrived just in time. We enjoyed very much your letter with its communication about our parents, and we thank you cordially for your intervention in forwarding the news from one side to the other. The last letter we received from Berlin is dated before the outbreak of the war. That war is a rather dark affair. You never can tell exactly what the end will be. None of the democracies will sacrifice its soldiers unnecessarily, and therefore it will take a long time for Germany to ask for an armistice. But we still think the German people will suddenly rebel against their bad leadership, because they cannot suffer longer, and they have always wanted to have peace. We hope that you're in the best of health. Do you like Philippine cigars? Tobacco is very cheap here, and we should very much like to send you a box.
Action! Letter from your father.
Dated just after the start of the war.
Read it. Is Papa Wolf all right, please? God, let it be good news.
All of us were happy to receive your correspondence, especially your arrival telegram. We can't thank the fates enough that you and Suzanne were able to survive the trip. There has been no shortage of sad news since you left. Aunt Emma is not the only one who died. On August 2nd, dear son, at 7:30 a.m., your dear mother was delivered from her, I'm sure that's the correct word to use here, her martyrdom, which she had suffered for so many years. I was informed that the funeral was to take place that Saturday at 10 a.m. in Treptow.
This cannot be, even in our non-observant family.
Jewish burials cannot take place on Saturday.
I was able to prevent this and had our dearly departed interred in the Jewish cemetery with all rabbinical rites on Friday at noon. Please think of your mama with loving remembrances. She has earned that from you children. Be happy and look toward the future.
He doesn't mention the war.
He must still fight the war within his own heart.
Well, then may he find peace within himself. There's little enough anywhere else.
My dear cousin Marga, I am just as sorry as I know you are that on account of the quota and regulations, we could not arrange for you and your family to come to this country. We should like to get closer acquainted than one can by letters. Let us hope that someday travel will be much freer than it is now, and we can have a visit together somehow. We think and talk of you a great deal, and are constantly hoping that your change in country will lead to a bright future for the three of you.
This time we haven't to report anything very pleasant, we're sorry to say. We are living with 2 other German families in a furnished home. We couldn't hire our own flat because our furnishings didn't arrive, and we're afraid we might never see them again. We received a letter that all cargo on board vessels in ports of refuge are charged with a contribution rate of 20% of the value to meet the vessel's expenses. After payment, delivery can be effected. Here is evidence of Nazi robbery in broad daylight. At any rate, the biggest difficulty is still to find a job here. We know that before we may judge the real possibilities in this country, we have the duty to try whatever is offered to us. Now Marga wants to write additionally in this letter, and I will give her the chance to do so.
My dear cousin Jean, I should like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I would like to demonstrate to you in quite another form how happy we are about your kindness and your helpfulness. We hope the day may come in the near future when we may really prove our attachment to you. You will understand that we are not yet perfectly accustomed to our new atmosphere. Never mind. We will hope for the best and think we will manage the matter anyhow. We look at our sweet daughter. We know we are happy people, and that somebody, somewhere, may envy us and our situation. We ourselves hope with you that there may come an occasion when we may see one another. Send you our love and best wishes.
I enclose for you a censored letter from Marga's parents. They seem not to have heard from you directly, at least at the time they wrote, except by cable. I suggest that if you have so far failed to make postal contact with them, you enclose letters for them to us. This war seems to be a combination of deadlock and seesaw. I feel that Germany probably cannot win unless she wins quickly. But that's not a settled question. Mostly, I suspect that England will accept some compromise whereby Hitler steps down or is thrown out to save face, and some equally obnoxious character like Goering carries on all the Nazi internal policies, but cooperates with the Tories in foreign policy, especially in a crusade against the Soviets. No good can come of this war, no matter who wins it.
Reading that letter from your parents again?
It's the first we've heard from Lucy and Papa in so long. And we wouldn't have it if it weren't for Paul and Jean. How did the meeting go with the refugee committee? They weren't helpful?
That would be putting it far too kindly.
What happened?
Nothing, repeatedly. One of the committee members has a good business, so I approached him about us starting our own business, thinking he'd be understanding and supportive. And he said it's too difficult to get jobs for immigrants, and besides, he couldn't really recommend us because it's rather useless for people who aren't American.
This is someone from the Jewish Refugee Committee.
Sounds funny, but it's true. He finally told me that the committee is looking for people with special experience to come to the islands, not those who only had the assistance of their relatives. Nothing to do with immigrants with special experience who've also had to be idle because the committee couldn't help them until now.
That's terrible. Did he say anything about Mindanao?
The supposed settlement there for Jewish refugees that Paul wrote us about.
Yes, perhaps that would be our best. You said supposed settlement. Does that mean?
It means it doesn't exist. And it's not likely ever to, I suspect. It's still in the planning stages. But we know that it's very hot there. Many Japanese people, but few white people. And the committee is looking for very young men to go there, or those with special experience in agriculture.
Oh.
3 points here. 1, there aren't enough prospects in Manila to make the project work. 2, even if more came over from Shanghai, there still may not be enough. And 3, the people planning this are doing it themselves. And they don't want help from strange people.
Like you.
Like me.
I'm sorry.
Not as sorry as I am. I need to write to our cousins. I've been dreading it, but there is no choice.
Perhaps they'll have some kind of answer.
I hope so. Finish this letter. Tell me what you think. Dear cousins, we are continually looking for a way to earn our own livelihood. We hope to succeed finally, but it will surely take a lot of time until we shall become self-supporting. We're running out of money towards the end of this year, we're sorry to say. We'll be sure that we don't like to ask you in this way for your further assistance, but we know, on the other hand, to whom we're turning. Best regards.
Your cable came this morning, and I have wired you $100. The first clipper due in Manila was to arrive this afternoon. You may therefore have already received a draft for $300 before even the cable reaches you. On the other hand, it may still be another 2 weeks from today, perhaps a little more. When the $300 finally reaches you, please send me back a draft for $100 so that I can keep my bank balances up here. We learned that Suzanne has not been well, but is recovered. We hope it was nothing serious. Please do not, out of any unnecessary consideration for us, ever neglect to take good medical care of yourselves. Without good health, you can accomplish nothing.
Action?
I have accomplished exactly nothing.
But Cousin Sarah said she knew this man.
Let me be exact. Your cousin Sarah in New York knows a man she sells insurance to. Okay? And that man owns a company that makes shoe polish. And that company's agents in Manila are Mr. Kunzla and Mr. Streif.
So you went to see this Mr. Kunzla or Mr. Streif?
To be precise, I was presented to their manager, a very friendly Swiss man who received me in a very friendly fashion and told me, in a very friendly manner, that he was unable to assist me as his firm was filled up with the necessary staff and could not employ more people. But he promised to keep me on his mind if a suitable position turns out.
Well, at least he was friendly.
Yeah, not like that other fellow whose wife came to visit. What was her name?
Mrs. Levy. She is another friend of Cousin Sarah's, and she did say she'd bring her husband back next time.
Yes, well, when I called on Mr. Levy, he said he couldn't remember our family. He couldn't remember Cousin Sarah's recommendation. He didn't know what to do for us, but he was a very busy man.
You told me he was cordial.
Only when saying goodbye. And a friendly refusal tastes much like an unfriendly refusal when placed between two slices of bread.
more of Papa Wolf's sayings.
Oh, how I miss him. I wish we would hear something.
I know. I die a little every day. There is no letter from him or Muti or Papa. But I am sure that Paul and Jean are forwarding our letters.
But still, no letters from my grandparents. The silence was like torture. But it was broken by 2 messages. The first was from the American consulate in Manila telling my parents to report for an interview if they still wanted to go to the United States. This brought an eager response to the consul and a rather more hesitant approach in a letter to Paul and Jean.
Our quota number will be called up in the near future and may arrive here 2 or 3 months later. We therefore would like to ask if you would still agree to our further immigration to the States if we shouldn't succeed at all in the Philippines in spite of all possible endeavors to do so. We of course believe that we still have to try our best here before we can think of changing again our loyalty to another country with new and hard conditions for all of us. Heartiest regards.
Well, the second ray of hope was a letter from Cousin Sarah making yet another try at saving the day.
I have just bought and am having shipped to you a sample line of mirror-bodied electric clocks that are being manufactured by clients of mine. These clocks are definitely in a class by themselves as to price, and they carry a guarantee. They come in blue, sapphire, and crystal. Some with double-mirrored bases would cost you $21 a dozen and should sell for $2.20 a piece. Others approximately 5 inches in diameter would cost you $12 a dozen and sell for $15 a dozen. You should be able to do a fine business with them, and the company will give you the exclusive agency in Manila for 3 months after you receive the samples, and so long after as the volume of your orders warrants it.
Now this one could work if we can generate enough volume.
And I can help. Let's start making lists of stores to call on.
Well, maybe it was possible to make a living in Manila after all. But while waiting for the clocks to arrive, there was a sudden flood of unwelcome news. 1940 brought the Nazi roundup of Jews in Poland and in German towns like Stettin, where my father's father, Papa Wolf, and my mother's aunt, Tante Ida, lived. They were, in Nazi language, relocated to Piński in Poland, with little but the clothes on their back. But, as if this had opened the floodgates, long-delayed letters suddenly arrived. Papa Wolf somehow remained brave and optimistic, but his situation was clearly becoming more difficult over a period of a few weeks.
My dear, good children, sweetest little one, you will have heard that fate sent me here, me and all the others, but that I have weathered everything very well so far. I refuse to give up hope that I will see you all again.
Your father is so brave. After being uprooted and sent to another country?
In this next part, it sounds like he's in some kind of a home, almost a prison.
It is difficult to find a place to write here because the rooms are not set up with such luxuries. I always have to watch for an opportune moment to write a few lines with a pencil. Your parents do everything they can to help me through this situation. I would like to tell you this so that you know you don't have to worry about me.
Not worry. Oh, Papa.
This next one sounds like he's giving up. It's not like him. So sad, so resigned.
The reason I don't miss my home is that so many sad memories are associated with it. This place is more or less considered the last stage. I take a walk several times a day or go on necessary errands and sit in the sun whenever possible. But without expensive additional nourishment, one can starve to death here. Besides money, I desperately need a new suit. The one I have is barely usable anymore. I have worn it since my arrival here.
Now that sounds like my father, worried about being properly dressed.
Oh, I don't like the sound of this one. Listen.
I have had to sell several things already just to keep afloat. What little money I have is like a drop in a bucket. My health is continuing to improve. I wish you continued good health and send you the most heartfelt wishes. Yours, Adolf Wolf Grunwald.
It's the last one.
So far, dated May the 17th.
Well, he sounded somewhat optimistic.
Only because your parents are still allowed to send him help. But for how long will that last?
Oh, you know Muti and Papa will do everything in their power to help your father.
As he would do for them. But for how long will they be allowed to keep alive someone the Nazis sent off to Poland to die?
Papa Wolf is strong. He will not die.
Well, from your mouth to God's ears. But I'm worried. He's old, and he's tired, and he's sick. Your Aunt Ida is gone already.
He was much older than your father. For her, the Polish winters were a death sentence. Just wait. I'm sure the next letter from Papa Wolf will have better news.
Well, waiting I can do. I've gotten to be an expert. Do you know that we are still waiting for those clocks your cousin Sarah said were being sent to us? It's been nearly 3 months already.
I'll say this about those clocks. It is about time.
It's about time to tell our cousins our one piece of good news.
Oh, about the furniture.
Is there some other piece of good news I'm not aware of? You aren't, by chance pregnant, are you?
Not by chance and not by purpose. You know we decided.
Okay, I was just checking.
Besides, my being pregnant in these circumstances be anything but good news. I know Susanna Mouse is always talking about wanting a baby sister.
She would love a baby sister.
But she's going to have to wait. And so are you. Now, right, Paul and Jean?
I hear and I obey. Dear Paul and Jean, the matter with our goods seems to be arranged now. Swiss friends are advancing us the amount necessary to get our furnishings from Kobe to Manila, about $200. We shall try and settle that loan by offering them as much of our things as they may need. Naturally, we are very happy. The news from Europe is bad enough. Now we have to fear much more than formerly about our brothers and sisters staying in England and France. You never can tell what the results of this terrible war will be. My brothers are trying in vain to bring our father out of Poland in time, and so do we. Thank you again for your helpfulness in my father's case. Also, we asked the American Red Cross for assistance about 2 months ago. I believe my studying the Spanish language and English shorthand will contribute to the abilities wanted by the businessmen here.
I think studying Spanish and shorthand is an excellent idea. Not really to be doing it myself, as I think the day of social upheaval, including anti-Semitism, is coming to this country too. Not tomorrow or the next day, but sometime when the world conditions give us the same problems and difficulties which helped bring it on in Germany. Now, we have the German example, fortified by the prestige of what I soon fear will be a complete victory in Europe. since I'm in a very black mood, I will write you no more at this time, since there's no real reason for you to be infected by what are only sentiments, when you yourselves are behaving with fortitude and a sense of reality.
Well, Paul's black mood was widespread and justified. On June 4th, 1940, the German army invaded France, sweeping away opposition and supposedly impregnable defenses. They marched into Paris 10 days later, and the French army surrendered on June 22nd, just 12 days after the fall of Norway. Hitler now controlled most of Europe. But there was good news too. The long-awaited electric clocks finally arrived, and my father set out to pursue his new business. But the pursuit didn't last very long.
Action? Back so soon, don't tell me you sold them all so fast.
Not exactly. In fact, none at all, ever.
What happened?
In the Philippines, the electric current is 220 volts.
Of course, I know that.
All right. Well, the New York Merchandise Company doesn't. The clocks only run on 110 volts.
No.
In other words, they're useless. In fact, they're worse than useless.
What's worse than useless?
Expensive. Now we either have to pay for them or pay to ship them back. I doubt very much that hurling them in the Pacific Ocean is an acceptable solution. It's attractive, but not acceptable. I need to write to Cousin Sarah and ask for instructions. After all, this was her idea, not mine.
Dear, that will take a very long time to get an answer back.
Well, we won't notice. We have all the clocks that won't run.
They should have known better than to sell me clocks with the wrong voltage. They will take them back if I pay the return postage. I'm enclosing a money order for $3, which should be enough if you pack the clocks carefully. I paid $2.25 to send them out. So you see, I will have thrown away over $5 because of their stupidity.
I need to finish this letter, Liebchen. Dear Paul and Jean, our parents had to advise us that my father in Poland died already on the 4th of June. Another victim of barbarism. When we wrote to you, intending to help our poor father, we troubled you again due to lack of quick communication from Europe. Now we have had a request from the consulate suggesting a confirmation of your affidavit in order to be completely prepared when our quota numbers arrive. Of course, though, this question concerns the important decision of going to the States or not. We can't decide because it is your money which would be involved if we do move. We understand that there is still a risk if we should come to the USA. On the other hand, we are convinced that a thorough change of our abode would bring better chances to all of us. Towards the end of August, we shall have eaten up our fund again. How long is this to continue in this way? Don't lose our courage. You can be sure of that. I love you.
We were looking into the matter of getting your father out of Poland, which would have been a difficult thing to do. Then came your last letter, telling us of his death. Please accept our sincere sympathy over this sad event. At least he had something of a life before the Third Reich came. Unlike the many young people whom Hitler caught before they had known any happiness at all. We are now getting material together to confirm our affidavit, as requested by the consul. You might inform him that he will receive these documents, probably the Clipper after this one. Funds from our New York bank will also reach you shortly. Continue to look for opportunities in Manila. We will, in the meantime, get ready for a move to the U.S., if in the end it should seem unavoidable. It will not be easy for you here, however.
It was not easy anywhere. In mid-August, the bombing of England began, and it was primarily aimed at destroying the British airstrains to pave the way for an invasion. Nearly a quarter of the RAF had been destroyed in the first 10 days, but then a German bomber accidentally bombed London. The British responded by bombing Berlin, and in a fit of rage, Hitler ordered that from then on, London would be the target of all bombing, focusing the threat on the civilian population, not on the Royal Air Force. And a bomb of a different sort was dropped on the hopes of my parents ever coming to America.
As we did not hear anything, I called at the consul's office. I learned that your supplemental papers had arrived. I was told that the consul wanted further information about your financial help to us during our stay here. I hurried to get those statements, and I handed them to the secretary. After that, I was told they wanted confirmation from your employers regarding your position.
What?
That's ridiculous.
Besides, we work for the same employer the consul does, Uncle Sam.
Furthermore, I was told that it seemed doubtful if we could get work in the States, as we did not succeed in getting jobs during our 13 months stay in Manila.
I was afraid of that, damn it.
I asked for permission to speak to the consul himself, but I had to come again some days later. This time, the consul did not let me talk to him personally. I was presented to his assistant, a new man shortly arrived from the States. What he explained to me was rather interesting, as he informed me about the present impossibility to issue any visas at all to any applicants because of the present situation.
Just what is that supposed to mean?
It could mean the war. Or it could mean something uglier from our State Department.
Marga and I asked assistance of an English lady residing here, she and her husband being friends of Mr. Hickok, the American consul. She wrote a letter of recommendation to the consul, which I handed to him personally yesterday. Mr. Hickok regretted very much that he's not able to do anything for us according to newly arrived recommendations from home. He was ordered to watch everyone carefully who wants to enter the USA, and though I tried to explain our situation thoroughly, Mr. Hickok could not promise anything positive.
Could not or would not. Bureaucrats.
My dear, we are bureaucrats.
At this particular moment, I take no great pride in that fact. What are you going to do?
Well, the first and most urgent thing is to answer their letter. This could break their spirit, and after they've come so far.
And gone through so much, it's not fair.
I'll write them right now.
And
then, my dear, you and I will put on our bureaucrat personas and try and find out what's going on.
And what we can do about it. Is it time to call on my family to get involved?
Not yet, I think, but keep that thought.
I'll think. You write.
Dear Max and Marga, I do not quite know what to make of the consul. On the one hand, by saying that my affidavits, etc., sent to him are insufficient, he seems to imply that if they were made sufficient, a visa might be forthcoming. On the other hand, by adverting to the new regulations of last July, which are in fact as he states them to be, he seems to be saying that no visa will be forthcoming no matter what the affidavits. Nor do I know how the affidavits are insufficient. I have communicated with the State Department as a citizen, not through any influence, for I have none, and they have promised to communicate with the consul and inform me of what, if anything, is still required. In the meantime, continue to try and find something in Manila. After all, there may be a last-minute opportunity, And I shall keep my ears and eyes open for possible openings and introductions on this side.
I called at the consulate again and was seen by the assistant. I was informed that they had received the inquiry of the State Department regarding our case and that they had dealt with the matter. The man told me furthermore that the consul had explained his rejection of the visa thoroughly, referring to the present situation with its particular demands. Under normal conditions, your papers would have been sufficient. But they're not now. At present, we only had to wait for further requirements, and I had to be contented with this advice.
Sounds like they've circled the wagons.
Yep. We're on the outside looking in.
No, that's Max and Marga. They're really on the outside. And they deserve better.
Well, the best thing we can do is let them know what's going on.
That's the best thing we can do now. I still think there's a better answer.
Dear Max and Marga, the State Department notified us of Consul Hickok's refusal to issue visas to you. However, the reasons given to us, not those stated to you, seem very clear or well taken. Underlying all of these is simply a policy of admitting as few German nationals as possible in view of the international situation. One hears rumors of perfectly innocent German refugees, anti-Nazi in their political views, who have been forced to be useful to Nazi elements by means of threats against their families still living in Germany. Of course, as long as this is either true or continues to be believed in official quarters, visas for Germans will be hard, if not impossible, to get.
No, that's not possible. We would never do anything to help those animals.
Never.
You know we'd never.
Liebchen, think. My father is dead. They have no real hold on me, but your parents are still alive in Berlin. If there was a threat against them to make them prisoners, to torture them, God forbid, to kill them, what would you do to prevent that?
Oh, you know I would never do anything to betray my country.
A country which has told you for so long that you're not welcome, that would admit you only grudgingly, whose people may hate and despise you, and you would weigh this against the fate of your parents. And do you really know what you would or wouldn't do?
I don't! And I can't! Oh, Mama shit. Mama shit. Papa shit. God help us.
You are the most honorable one among us. And I know that you would never give in to those monsters. But they don't know that. And so we wait. And we hope.
My advice to you is to act as though you were going to stay in Manila indefinitely. Continue to look earnestly for jobs. And keep your spirits up. If sometime there should be a change in policies about visas, we are in touch with the State Department to have such policies applied to you. It would seem also that the consul would feel better about issuing you visas if you could demonstrate your employability by having held a job in the islands.
And I would feel better if we could fly over the moon. Well, maybe by the next high holidays.
Speaking of, I should write Cousin Sarah and wish her a Happy New Year.
Please do. At least that's something nice to say.
Dear Sarah, 1940 is approaching its end, and we wish you heartily a Happy New Year. I feel so grateful to all of you. What would have happened to us if you, Paul, and Jean had not been? I am often so unhappy because we could not find any kind of work here. You cannot imagine how depressed I feel sometimes. Whatever may occur every day, nobody knows what may come of all that distress all over the world.
Dear Cousin Marga, I have wanted to get something for you and Suzanne for Christmas, but I've been so busy at the office this year, I just couldn't do any shopping. I am therefore enclosing this money order and asking you to do the shopping for me. Pick out something the entire family can enjoy, or something for the baby, or do whatever will give you the most pleasure with it for Christmas. We are still hoping that the new year will bring you to these shores. Affectionately, Jean.
How thoughtful of them.
But for Christmas, not Hanukkah.
You know that Paul and Jean are not observant. Besides, it doesn't matter what the holiday. It's their thoughtfulness that counts.
You're right, of course.
I was so joyfully surprised to receive your kind letter with its valuable enclosure. Thank you heartily for your gift, and I assure you I will change that money for the most useful and pleasant things for our Suzanne I ever can get. I cannot begin to describe my feelings when I received that letter. It's hard to believe that there is so much love in this world, as you and Paul have shown to us. Who had to go out of their home country just for being Jews. I hope the day is not so far off when we can start on our own feet. Yesterday, Max was called to Council Hickok. Yours, Marga.
That Consul Hickok called you in again indicates to me that he probably received some inquiries from me as to what was holding up your visas and whether there was anything further that we needed to do with this end. We have not heard anything from him, but yesterday we made an occasion to call on the chief of the visa division at the State Department. We wish to impress headquarters with our ideas about your eligibility for immigration. Whether we succeeded or not, we cannot tell, but we were told that we should hear further, and I am sure that we will hear. For we have previously had the State Department call us on its own initiative to give us word of you, believe it or not. So you see, our bureaucracy here is quite decent.
Mr. Max Albert Grunwald. Sir, with reference to your desire to emigrate to the United States with your family, this consulate has received 3 numbers under the German quota, which may be allotted to you during February only.
Can it be real?
It's signed Thomas A. Hickok, American Consul. It's real, we're going. Wake up Susanna Mouse, it's time she learned to waltz.
But I just put her down for a nap.
She can sleep anytime. It's real, we're going. Home.
Oh, Heather, when are they coming?
No, they're not.
What? But they got their immigration numbers.
They got called in for a physical. Oh, and listen to this.
Marga and Suzanne, having been found all right, the doctor stated my short-sightedness and a slight height of my blood pressure.
Elevated blood pressure? Mine would be through the roof by now.
His final statement that my disease, my short-sightedness, was inadvertently affecting my ability of earning a living, and that apparently caused the consul to flatly refuse the issue of the visa for myself.
What? That is the most ridiculous. he should demand a re-examination.
He did. No, same result.
Never in my life have I been really troubled by it. I've been wearing glasses since I was 15. I drove my own car for 10 years without the slightest accident. Mr. Hickok told me that the grade of my short-sightedness is putting me on the list as a defect in accordance with regulations. For this case, I had to prove that I never should become a public charge in case of being an invalid, that I should always have an independent income.
Oh, certainly, Mr. Rockefeller. Come on in and welcome. What absolute rubbish! Paul, this could really break his spirit to come so close.
I think he's not broken. No, he is mad. Listen.
We have to say that in our opinion, there hardly will be any guarantor of any immigrants who is taking the case as seriously and as humanely as you do in this case of ours. Therefore, we honestly deplore the fact that it is just you who have been troubled so often and so unceasingly by the affairs of your proteges. It seems as if the world has conspired to prove the bonds of true friendship to the utmost.
You don't think he's giving up, do you?
No, wouldn't you be tempted to?
No, and neither would you.
No, and neither is Max. He's giving English lessons and looking for work. Well, he even applied for a job as an agricultural laborer.
Max, the farm worker?
No, they turned him down. Oh, not because he's nearsighted. Not because of his blood pressure. Oh, not even because he's never worked at a farm in his life. Oh, you know why?
I have no idea.
Because he's not on welfare, and because he isn't being supported by the Jewish Refugee Committee.
My God!
You better speak louder. I don't think he can hear you.
Well, if he can't, my parents certainly can. Is that all right?
Go ahead. I think I have no cards left in my deck. Oh, and dear, good luck.
Dear Paul and Jean, now Marga and Suzanne have been furnished with visas, I myself will gladly wait for further developments, having been some kind of black sheep in our family. I am convinced of the fact that it is not my fault. As to the political developments all over the world, it looks hardly too dark to give any predictions. Our own family is nothing regarding the destiny of thousands and thousands of people suffering in Europe and elsewhere. However, it is hard to get comfortable about our situation in spite of everything. Thankfully, and with all our love, Max.
Oh, and your letter did come, telling the story of the physical examination and the resulting nonsense about myopia and hypertension. Well, we were much disappointed. However, one must face facts. If this action of Consul Hickok shows nothing else, it does show there is a definite policy of obstructing immigration as much as possible. And we shall continue to take up such opportunities as present themselves to have these adverse moves of that consul reversed. Until some high authority tells us that case is closed. But, as I told you, we are not influential people. And you must not build up hopes on this score, which may prove illusory. Seems to me that by the time you receive this, your funds may be low. So I'm in closing the draft. I hope in a form you can easily negotiate. Did you Did you mean for us to understand that you were considering letting Marga and Suzanne come here while you stay behind? What? Yes? Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh.
Letter from the U.S. Consulate.
What's it say?
Well, it's addressed to you. You know I don't open your mail.
Now she gets scruples.
You are requested to call at this consulate at your convenience in connection with your application for a quota immigration visa to enable you to immigrate into the United States. Very truly yours, Thomas A. Hickok, American Consul.
Action. Can it be real?
It sounds that way, doesn't it? I'm afraid to believe it, though.
Oh, I'm not. I'll believe it until they come and force me to stop. I'm gonna go pack for all three of us.
It might be a little early to start packing, but I'm sure we can think of something else to do in there.
Any luck booking passage from Manila?
Well, I could get them on American President line, second class, for about $600.
Which we can afford. We discussed that.
Well, the issue isn't how much, it's when. There's no space available for 2 to 3 months. I've cabled Max and Marga and told them to hold on to their lodging until we can find them passage.
That's just American President lines. What else is there we can book them on?
Nothing. Or next to nothing. I mean, there is a Japanese ship that goes to Honolulu and San Francisco, but I don't think that would be a very wise idea. Tensions are mounting in the Pacific, and trusting our cousins to the Japanese, it seems like too much of a risk, and we can get them much better passage just by waiting a little.
I suppose. They've already waited so long, but 3 more months will seem like forever.
You're certain you're willing to do this?
Certain as I can be, considering I don't want to take another ocean voyage at all.
Then would you rather stay here for the rest of our lives?
If I said yes, would you stay also?
I would. You've always come first in my life.
And let's go where that life can be worth something for us.
For us and for our Susanna Mouse.
Right, Paul and Jean, and I hope they won't be angry.
Hey, at least this time we're paying our own way. Thanks to selling our household furnishings, we can afford third class. It won't cost our cousins a cent.
Until we arrive, and hopefully not for long. Now, right.
Dear Paul and Jean, yesterday affairs regarding our sailing came to a climax. We have made up our minds about leaving as soon as possible and not waiting an indefinite period for booking on an American boat. Therefore, we are about to have us booked for the Japanese liner Tatuta Maru, sailing on the 3rd of May, third class, $135, Suzanne half fare. This big and modern boat is scheduled to get to San Francisco on the 29th of May, 1941. We only take the luggage with us, including a couple of suitable crates. We have dispersed all of our furnishings and other large things.
And listen to this. Now we are in the last week of our unsuccessful stay in the Philippines. We hope to come over safely and without any further delay, as we are anxious to arrive at our destination. With our best regards, yours so gratefully, Max and Marga.
Well, it's too late to talk them out of it now. On a Japanese ship?
They wanted to save us the expense. They wanted to do it on their own. They're truly your relatives, Paul.
They are truly our family, my dear. Yours and mine. Whatever comes, they are family. Mishpacha.
And they are coming at last.
Well, on May 3rd, 1941, we sailed from Manila aboard the Tatuta Maru. We didn't know at the time that this would be the last Japanese ocean liner to sail to the United States prior to the attack on Pearl Harbor. And making this voyage was a tribute to my parents' tenacity and the Lewisons' persistence. But tribute or not, it was a horrific experience. In third class, the food was nearly rotten and almost inedible. And on one side of the ship, men slept by themselves, and the other side of the ship, women and children. And my mother and I were almost sick for a week and a half. And to top it off, in Hong Kong, the British intended to intern us as German enemy aliens, but somehow relented and allowed us to continue our voyage to freedom. 4 members of the crew died en route, but somehow we managed to survive and enjoyed our very first milkshakes in Honolulu. And finally, we sailed under the Golden Gate Bridge and into the Promised Land.
Just think, Liebchen, we might never have to sail on the ocean again.
Oh, I'm so glad this voyage is over. I have never been so sick for so long, I thought I might die.
I think it was only the hope of dying that kept you alive.
Very funny. Wasn't so funny when those poor sailors died and we could hear the crew pounding nails into their coffin at night. What day is it? I've lost track of the days.
It's the 29th of May. And believe it or not, it's still 1941. Feels like we've been traveling for years.
We have. What is that?
It's a telegram addressed to us. No one put it through the door.
Well, who's it from?
I don't know. Let me see. That's odd.
Well, what's it say? You're driving me crazy.
Wait, I'm sorry. It's from Paul Lewinson, and it says, "Must tell immigration officials San Francisco destination. Letter explaining meets ship. Consider carefully. Don't discourage committee."
What in the world does that mean?
I hope it's not more problems. Maybe we'll understand when we get his letter. But in the meantime, like he tells us, San Francisco destination.
Dear Max and Marga, we sent you the radiogram to the ship to give San Francisco as your destination to immigration officials, because we had heard indirectly that you had given New York as your destination to the Manila Committee. We wanted to warn you against taking a false step, for if you gave them New York as your destination but had neither tickets to New York nor funds to buy tickets, you might find yourself detained at the immigration station.
Might be detained? My God, I thought we were going to be arrested.
Yeah, they did talk about interning us someplace called Angel Island.
At least it has a nice name.
When you're sent to hell, calling it heaven won't reduce the temperature.
Well, thank goodness Paul let her reach the immigration people. It really saved us.
Can you imagine coming all this way, only to be sent to prison?
Even then, it might not have been worse than Manila.
Apparently, someone made inquiries about you at the San Francisco Refugee Committee. They told him you were not staying on there, whereupon this person naturally struck you off his list of prospective job applicants. And I do not know whether there is any way now to reawaken his interest in you.
How could this have happened?
Never have I told anyone our destination was New York. Never.
It must have been someone from the Manila Committee,
Oh.
leaping to conclusions.
Wonderful. They take the leap and we suffer the fall.
Well, you are better off on the coast than, of all places, in New York, because living costs are lower. There are fewer immigrants competing for a livelihood. There is less anti-immigrant feeling. And there are more varied opportunities, and you can become more easily acclimatized as Americans.
You must admit, Liebchen, he makes a strong case.
We can understand that you might well think how pleasant it would be to be somewhere where there were people whom you knew, and where, when you tired of the strain of always speaking English and keeping adjusted to foreign ways, you could relax among compatriots, Landsleute. But after all that you have thus far courageously faced, we like to think that you will not wish now merely to follow the lines of least resistance, when wisdom, or so it seems to us, bid you not to let old ties delay your seizing of the very first chance that comes your way. Let us have all the news about you. We hope from now on it will always be the best.
Well, it wasn't always the best, but it wasn't bad. My father got to join a chorus, and he worked for a union restaurant as a busboy until there was a strike. And then the opportunity came to move to Sacramento, where there were fewer refugees seeking work. Paul did admit to us later on that Jean's family had exercised their influence in getting us here to America. And of course, over the years, they always expressed their gratitude. And the war went on badly. And letters from my mother's parents were brave but troubling, as one by one their friends disappeared. Father found employment with Southern Pacific Railroad, and I celebrated my 4th birthday with a real party. And then Mother wrote to Jean, desperately asking for help.
Dear Jean, never in my life have I felt so lonely as I do now. Longing so much for talking to somebody about myself. You know that Max and I and Suzanne, we love each other very much. We've never really had troubles with each other. Hard times are lying behind us, but thanks to you and your generosity, we never really suffered from the sorrows of our daily life. Now we are so glad to be here in America. Hopefully build up a new life. Hopefully see my beloved parents again and give them a few nice years after the hell they've had in Germany. Now, I expect a second child. Under normal circumstances, I should be so glad about it. But now I don't know what to do. I've already talked to a doctor, and I asked him to take it away from me. He told me, 1, it was against the law. 2, it is very dangerous. I can't sleep at night, and the tears are always flowing. I don't know what to do. Oh, dear Jean, please don't be offended that I've come to you with my troubles, and please don't tell anybody about me who could notify my parents. They would worry so much.
I must respond to your letter right away. I can appreciate how you feel, and it's too bad this happened to complicate your new life. So far from home and friends and family, it must be very trying. However, above all, I want to urge you to be of good cheer. It won't be a calamity, I assure you. It seems to me the first, most sensible thing to do is to get good medical advice and care. And I am making inquiries about that. Now do cheer up for your and Max's and Suzanne's sake. And do write me as fully and freshly as you ever want to. I promise you, nothing will get to any of your relatives unless you write of it to them direct. I may be coming to California this winter in connection with my job, and I will certainly look in on you in Sacramento. With this goes all my fondest wishes for your well-being and happiness, and may we meet soon.
Since I got your letter, I feel so much better. I think I know your comforting words by heart. I do hope to see you in Sacramento. I long to place my hands in yours and press them thankfully. I think, how lucky am I to call you friend?
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
My God. They are bombing Manila. We might have still been there. All those people we knew. Our friends. Who could that be?
Marga, I'm your cousin Jean Lewinson.
Of course! God, I knew it was you! Oh, my heart leapt the moment I saw you sit.
I didn't mean to surprise you, but I was sent to Los Angeles, and I thought, since I was in California...
I'm so happy to see you as Paul with you.
Oh, no, I'm afraid the National Archives couldn't spare him for the trip. Now, after Sunday, the entire government is in a frantic condition. We are now truly at war.
The news is terrible. All those young men on those Navy ships. And now, Manila.
Oh, I know. And now travel may become a lot more difficult. So I thought I'd better come see you while I have the chance. How are you? How is Max and Suzanne and the new little coming event? Are you still...
The doctor says the baby will arrive in May. Max is fine, still working for the railroad. And Suzanne has found playmates in the neighborhood, and she is happy and healthy. And I am doing much better, thanks to you.
And what of your parents? Do you still get letters?
Till now. But I fear that will stop too now that we are officially at war with Germany. I worry about them so much. What they must be going through. All that terror. All that fear. It echoes inside.
Oh, it must be terrible. Your old life gone. Max's father dead. Yours going through terrible hardships.
Yes, but I have to tell you something. Because of you, there is a brighter side to my life now. Because of you, when I hear Max whistling on his way home from work, or I hear Suzanne out playing with her friends, it is almost enough to drown out the dark echoes in my heart.
Is that you?
My Susanna Mouse!
Oh, come, they'll be so happy to see you. We've waited so long.
Well, life went on. My father had to register as an enemy alien, and then the following week he had to register for the draft. When I was 5, someone asked me if I was an American, and I proudly replied, "No, I'm an enemy alien." Well, there was talk of evacuating the Germans and Italians into camps like they did the Japanese, and fortunately that didn't happen. And the new baby arrived June 13th, 1942. Well, I didn't get the little sister I wanted, but my parents did not hesitate to name my new baby brother Paul. And my grandparents in Germany did hear of the good news. And then shortly after, they were forced to leave their homes, and then they disappeared. Forever. I was very young, and I really don't remember those days and those times very well. But my mother's engagement ring, she got it back 12 years later from her sister who lived in England at the time and came to visit my mother. And after a long embrace, they looked at each other, and she handed her the ring. And Jean and Paul Lewison became dear and treasured friends over the years. But it wasn't until my mother's death at the age of 96 that I really knew the full story of their love, devotion, and loyalty in coming to this country, nor of the pain, sorrow, and regret, which I believe never completely left my mother. And then I found these letters, saved through the years like a treasury of joy and pain. And it was in reading these letters and reliving these events through their eyes that has made them for me truly echoes in my heart. Thank you.
From the very start is their enduring gift to me. It echoes in my heart. The world is not a friendly place, so full of fear and hate. But they kept searching till they found the key to freedom's gate. The memories remain with me and never will depart. The words of love and grief and joy are echoes in my heart. In my heart.
Thank you very much. We'd like to, at this opportunity, introduce this person right here.
The real Suzanne.
The real Suzanne is actually in our audience, so Suzanne.
Come up, Suzanne, please. And
please come on up.
meet.
And we'd like all of you to give a real round of applause. like to say what an honor and a privilege it is for us to be able to communicate this story of courage and bravery. So thank you very much. Thank you.
My brother passed away a few years ago, but his descendants some of his descendants are in the audience tonight. My nephew, I can't see him.
Can we have the house lights on?
Yeah. Gregory Grunwald. We have several Grunwalds here.
Thank you.
And
oh, come on up. Let us know who you are.
And his son. And I want to share also, there's another Max Grunwald who's 6 years old. A little too young to be here tonight. So thank you for coming and thank you for doing such a wonderful job.